This week we begin Sefer Shemos. Rabbi Yakov gives us what chizuk to begin Sefer Shemos with. So let's begin. Pרשת Shemos. Ve'ela Shemos b'nei Yisrael habaim Mitzrayim. These are the names of the sons of Yisrael that came to Mitzrayim. Es Yakov, Ish uvesebo, man and his home, they came. Okay, so everyone came with the Mashbiya down to Mitzrayim. So Yakov begins with a very fundamental idea that he says, the Iker Bias Ha'adam. These are big words. Iker Bias Ha'adam, the main reason for man coming to the world, L'zeh ha'olam, hu kedei lahashlim ruchai v'nishmasei, is to complete his ruach and his neshama. What does that mean? A person, we know we have a soul. The soul is actually made up of 5 parts. The nefesh, that's the part that we say is in the blood that connects most to our body, the nefesh. The ruach is the spirit, neshama, the neshama. Then there are 2 higher levels, and that is something called chaya and yichida. So Rabbi Yakov says that the purpose of coming to the world, a person's job in this world is lahashlim, is to complete his ruach and his neshama. Okay, great. How do you do that? Well, that's done, he says, through Eisek HaTorah, learning, being involved in Torah, histapkusei b'mitzvos, being connected to, cleaving to the mitzvahs, and tefillah karoi, the proper davening. When a person's able to fix his nefesh, ruach, and neshama, then he's zeicha to be davak in the Shechina. You're able to connect and to cleave to the Shechina. Okay? Now, how do we influence? How does this happen? Had Torah and mitzvahs and tefillah, by doing that, we're able to complete our neshama. And more than that, he says, there's another principle that we have to know. Whenever somebody is greater than somebody else, he has what to teach somebody else, so he's called a Mashbiya. He's an influencer. And the person who's influenced, who receives that influence, is the Makabel. There's a Mashbiya and a Makabel. That is phrased in the terminology used as a Zachar and a Nekeva, the male and the female. The male is the Mashbiya. And you think about having a child, the man is Mashbiya, and the Nekeva is the Makabel, the Ish and the Isha. And so whenever someone's being Mashbiya, whether you're a man or a woman, if you're the influencer, that's the male role, that's called being an Ish. And the Makabel is the Isha. We find this in the world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The shame of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is referred to as a Zachar. When sometimes God is referred to in the male, and sometimes he's female. What's that about? God is not male or female. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when we're referring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as the Mashbiya, as the influencer, that's a lashon zachar. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kaviyachol is receiving, he's on the receiving end from us. That's called being a makabel. That's referred to as Shechina. That's why Shechina is feminine. Shechina receives its power from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and even from the Jewish people. We have a way of influencing Shechina. HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Shechina. Now, the Ruach is a higher level than the Nefesh. That means the Ruach is the one that's Mashbiya on the Nefesh. The Neshama, which is a higher level than both of them, is the Zachar, is the male in corresponding to the Ruach and the Nefesh. That's the Mashbiya and the Makabel. Terrific. So now we understand what we're coming to the world to do is to be mashlim our neshama, our ruach and our neshama. And there's a mashbiya and a makabel process that goes on in the world. Now let's take a look at the psukim again. Ve'ela Shemos b'nei Yisrael habayim Mitzrayim. These are the names of the Jewish people coming to Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim, says Rabbi Yakov, is the gematria 385, the same as Shechina. So we can look at this pasuk a little differently. How is he mizdabik? How does he come to the Shechina? How does a Jew come to attach himself to the Shechina? We said, Iker Biyas Olam. A person's purpose in the world is to be mizdabek, is to come to Mitzrayim, to come to the Shechina. How does he do that? So we get a little piece of advice on the Torah. Es Yakov. You got to be mashlim yourself. You got to perfect yourself. You got to at least work really hard at that. Yaakov is an acronym, stands for Yichud. Yichud is the idea of, making Yichudim is unification. That's being able to see the unity of God in the world. Tzaddikim do it in a Kabbalistic way, and our job is to be able to see in everything that's happening around the world at large, and in us in particular, is to be able to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to be miyached, Kudsha Baruch Hu Ushchunta, to be miyached the mundane things that are going around us, and to see the godliness in them. That's called Yichud. Ayin stands for Anava. That's humility. That means in everything we do it not for ourselves, not to get covered or grander. We're doing this because that's the right thing to do. That's Anava. Kedusha, holiness. That means we do things b'kedusha b'tara. We do things in a holy manner, and more than that, we're oisik b'Torah hakedosha. We spend time learning the holy Torah. And finally, that's a mistake. The vase of Yakov stands for bracha, and that is the bracha that corresponds to the tefillah that we're constantly looking to daven, and to daven properly, the tefillah that's karai. What happens when a person is able to be Yakov? He's able to focus on the Rabbanu Shleilim, be humble, learn the Torah, and daven properly. So he's metaken his neshama. Then ish ubeisebo. The ish, that's the Mashbiya, that's the neshama, has an effect and brings along his ruach and his nefesh. Ish ubeisebo. He's able to bring along everybody, and then we're able to all parts of his soul to be mizdabek in the Shechina. Beautiful. But I was thinking, what struck me about this piece, where whoa, Mitzrayim is the Shechina. Like we're finding a remez to this in going down to Mitzrayim, and I think that's exactly the point. Because what does it mean, Ikar bias ha'adam l'zeh ha'olam? We're not standing up in heaven. There it's easy. If we're in heaven, so what's the big deal to be mistabik in the Rabbanan Shalom? Our job is when we come down to Mitzrayim, when we come out into this world to find Shechina, to be Yakov, to be Mashbiya, to mistabik in the Shechina. So Hashem should give us this koyach as we start Sefer Shemos. And as we come down to Mitzrayim, every day we wake up and we find ourselves in Mitzrayim, and the choice is ours. Do we look at it as Mitzrayim, or are we going to find the Shechina? Good luck.